What is one of the most annoying things to be done in modern day fiction? In my opinion, breaking immersion. Whether it be in a video game and you see a bunch of modern day political, social messages from one direction or the other, or you're watching an old TV show that takes place in the 1800s and yet one of the main good guys and cast members is a free gay black slave who's being openly treated like, oh, you know, this is just completely normal in slave times in the 1800s. Like, yes, things like that. And it was attempted to happen again in a recent interview with an upcoming Mads Mikkelsen movie, but they shut that down. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idle, and let's get into this bombshell response to one of the most ridiculous questions you will hear all day. Journalist tries to race-bait Hollywood stars about lack of minorities in a film set in 1750s Denmark gets immediately put on blast. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about 1750s Denmark. I mean, I can't explain to be a particular expert. That being said, from the little bit I do know about Denmark, 1750s Denmark, might I add, yeah, there probably wasn't a whole lot of other, cultures mingling in there. And we're about to get into a beautiful response from the director. But before that, please go ahead and like, comment, share the video, the whole nine. Also, I am now doing channel memberships on my channel for $4.99 a month. I would truly appreciate it if you would support me in the endeavors to grow this YouTube channel. I'm offering some pretty great perks, including you guys getting to pick what articles I cover maybe a couple times a week or a few times a month, depending on how it goes. That being said, if you choose to support me, I do truly appreciate it. Now let's get into the article. Mads Mikkelsen and Nicolaj Arcel, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but let's just hope, didn't have any tolerance for nonsense involving a lack of diversity in their film, The Promised Land. Mikkelsen stars in the movie from Arcel, and the plot is described as follows. The poor soldier Ludwig Kalen arrives in 1755 on the barren Jutland Heath with a single goal, to follow the king's call to cultivate the land and thereby achieve wealth and honor himself. But Kalen quickly makes an enemy. The merciless landowner Frederick de Schinkel. Man, this is definitely a movie from Denmark, who is the sole ruler of the area, believes that the heath belongs to him and not the king. When de Schinkel's serf runs away with his wife, Anna Barbara, and seeks refuge with Kalen, the landowner does everything to drive Kalen away, and at the same time exact a cruel revenge. Kalen does not bow, but stubbornly takes up the unequal battle, and now risks both his life, but also the bond with the small troubled family that has arisen around him on the heath. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest. Sounds like a pretty interesting movie. Now, I do like myself some, historical fiction, I guess this would be the best way to put it. I mean, maybe it's a period piece. Are fiction stories still considered period pieces? I don't know, but Mads Mikkelsen is an incredible actor. Even the god-awful Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny had a redeeming quality in Mads Mikkelsen. It didn't, but it almost did, and we're all about participation trophies in this generation, right? Point is, I think this could be interesting. Do I think this is a movie that's going to make a ton at the box office? I'll be honest, probably not. Movies like this don't tend to make a bunch of money at the box office, but who knows? I could be surprised. I would hope to be surprised because I just want to see more original and nuanced films coming out in the modern day. Seeing as how it's set in 1755 Denmark, it would make sense the cast is almost entirely white. Which it is. And yeah, that's completely fine. If you got a movie taking place in 1755 Denmark, I would be annoyed if there were any other people in there, unless it was, again, historically accurate for a particular historical event that didn't have to do with white individuals. Like when you're watching Lord of the Rings of Power, which is very clearly based on, old medieval European lore, there probably weren't a lot of people of color around. Let's be real, there really weren't. So it's immersion breaking and very pandering when you see that sort of thing going on. That is not going to happen in this movie, it seems. It would be historically inaccurate to just add minorities, transgender people, or anything like that to a film taking place in an entirely white country. Not to mention a very entirely white, time period as well. Like I said, there probably wasn't a lot of intermingling in 1755. However, a journalist at the Venice Film Festival felt the need to demand answers on why there were so many white people. It is Final Fantasy XVI all over again. The video game that was specifically modeled after medieval Europe, which, again, a very white time frame, also made in a very white location, might I add, made by Japanese individuals. But you guys remember the media and all that games journalists had to make absolutely everything about race. Why aren't there any minorities in a video game taking place based on medieval Europe? Like, yeah, it's that sort of thing all over again. Now, thankfully, the Japanese Yoshi P, they shut that down pretty easily, and we get to see the director do something similar here. It went over about as poorly as you can imagine. Now, I will play the video clip for those of you guys that haven't seen it, but let's keep reading the article first because I'm sure this article will have the video in there. Mads Mikkelsen and Nicolaj Arcel react to allegations of a lack of diversity in The Promised Land. I really want to stress that lack of diversity is not a problem. Let's say we're watching a movie about Harlem in the 80s. I'd be pretty annoyed if it was an all-white cast then as well. Like, this isn't just a white person thing, oh, we need more white people in movies. No, this is about if you're making a story, people want to be immersed in that story. And doing these ridiculous social pandering things break immersion, and we all know the reason you're doing it. You're doing it to talk about how great your representation is, how brave, how stunning, how strong, how amazing and progressive we are. But people don't watch movies to see how progressive you are. People traditionally watch movies for escapism or to learn something, or maybe a little bit of both. And I think this is a perfect example of how that can work. This is a cast and Danish production that is entirely Nordic, therefore has some lack of diversity. The journalist, who also said he was Danish, started before almost immediately being cut off by Mikkelsen. What are you going on to? The star actor asked as he shook his head in disbelief and laughed. However, the Danish journalist pushed forward, demanding information on the lack of diversity and pointing out the film wouldn't qualify for the Academy Awards Best Picture because it doesn't have enough minorities. That's a real thing, but it's being slightly walked back. Yeah, by the way, that is a real thing. There are now legitimately, we've always made the joke, diversity quota, check boxes. That is real now. To actually win Oscars or be considered, you have to have certain diversity quotas attached. But also, who cares about the Oscars? When was the last time anybody did care about the Oscars? Maybe some filmmakers don't care about getting these arbitrary awards from their contemporaries and just want to put out art that they love and that hopefully society at large loves as well. Maybe make a coin or two while doing so, but not everything revolves around these mythical golden statues that you use to put in your garage or whatnot. I don't know, one of the 6 garages these celebrities have. Like, where do Oscars even go when celebrities win them? Because to me, it'd just be kind of narcissistic to just display it on your mantle or something. Like, hey, look at how great I was. All the other adult pretenders said that I was the best at adult pretending. Look at it as you enter my home. I have it right here in the foyer. Like, it's just sort of dumb. I'm just curious what actors do with their Oscars. But the point is, maybe some directors just want to put out movies that they want to make and they want the world to see. And it's not about these arbitrary awards. He asked if the lack of diversity was a cause of concern come award season, and Mikkelsen turned the tables and said, "You're putting us on the spot, so you answer the question. What do you think?" I hadn't seen that part of the interview when I saw this clip surfacing on Twitter earlier. That's pretty great. I hope we get to see the full excerpt on this article then. It didn't take long for Arcel to jump in and state a truly matter-of-fact way. First off, the film takes place in Denmark in the 1750s. We do have a big plot line about a girl of color who is being subjected to racism, which is very rare any people of color in Denmark in the 1750s. Almost nobody. She was probably the only one at the time in the entire country of Denmark. It's just historical how it was in the 1750s, Arcel added. You can watch the entire 2-minute exchange below. Well, I've not seen the entire 2-minute exchange, so let's do that, shall we?
Hello, I'm from Denmark, and it's a pleasure to be here. So you're a little bit into it. This is a cast and a Danish production, which is entirely Nordic. It therefore has some lack of diversity, you would say, as also new rules are implied in Hollywood.
What are you on to?
Sorry.
Right there. He just shuts him down. Lack of diversity. Did you see the way he looks taken aback? Like, do you guys know that meme of the dude just closing his eyes? Like, that is what Mads Mikkelsen did right there. What are you on about?
But
From the get-go.
From the get-go, there is set some rules of diversity across the Atlantic for competing in the best picture, the equivalent to this competition. As I see it, you don't live up to these standards with this broadcast, and there is just curious. It's not because of artistic reasons; it's because of lack of diversity that this can't compete in that.
What does he mean, lack of artistic? He says because of lack of artistic reasons it can't compete. Well, again, who cares if it can't compete? Not every film is a competitor for the Oscars.
Competition. Are you worried about that?
Are you?
Immediately, just without missing a beat. Are you? Are you worried about it? Like, that is how you turn this around on them. You ask them why they're asking such a stupid question. You're not supposed to answer questions with questions. This is a time when you need to answer a question with a question.
I'm serious and honest because you're putting us on the spot, so yeah, you answer the question.
No, because I have, in comparison, Parasite, which is a great movie.
What do you think?
I was thinking that Parasite, which is a great movie, coming from South Korea, had the same level of diversity, but coming from South Korea, this was actually still eligible for the competition. You, as a Danish movie with an all-Nordic cast, is not, and that's what I...
All right, well, there he raises an interesting point. Parasite, coming from South Korea, good movie, by the way, yeah, would have been, now, granted, at the time that Parasite came out, by the way, the new, checkbox rules hadn't taken effect, but let's say they had. According to this guy, from the context, it seems like nowadays, Parasite would still be eligible for an Oscar. Why? It's a South Korean film with an all South Korean cast. Not exactly particularly diverse. Why is it a Danish movie with an all Danish cast wouldn't be allowed? I mean, at that point, it means it comes down directly to the skin color, not the country of origin, but the skin color. Literal definition of racism.
I think it's a little bit conundrum.
I don't understand the question.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the film takes place in Denmark in the 1750s.
Yeah.
We do have a big plot line, you know, about a girl of color who is being subjected to racism.
Okay.
And you know, and which was very rare. Any people of color in Denmark in
Yes.
almost nobody. She was probably at the time the only one in the entire country of Denmark. So it was. I would say that it hasn't been. It wasn't a thought in our mind that I think it would be a little weird. You know, if it's just a historical
Exactly.
how it was in the 1750s.
That's also what I was portraying for.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's that simple. That's how it was in the 1750s. Like, there's no need to change your story or cater to these idiots on the internet and these idiots in California who think there must be diversity in everything. Diversity is not inherently good, guys. Diversity is not also inherently bad. Diversity is just a thing. It exists sometimes and doesn't exist other times. In 1750s Denmark, probably didn't exist too terribly much. So if you're making a movie in 1750s Denmark, you probably want to can it with the diversity crap. Credit to both for not backing down on the promised land. This is how you handle people asking absurd questions about a lack of diversity in entertainment. Don't give an inch. State the facts and move on. There's nothing to apologize for. It's a film set in 1750s Denmark. As Arcel said, seeing a non-white person virtually never happened. The idea of it happening literally is hard to comprehend. Even today, almost all of Denmark is white. Why would anyone just insert characters that wouldn't have existed? That is a brilliant question, Outkick. Maybe some idiot on Twitter who eventually sees this video can answer that and give us the most succinct, eloquent answer that gives us more than just because diversity good. Of course, this isn't the first time a historically accurate racial breakdown caused problems. Dunkirk apparently needed to include more blacks and women, something that didn't actually exist in Czech's notes real-life battle in World War II. I didn't even know that they tried to include that. It's funny as hell. The fact that there are only a couple of women and no lead actors of color may rub some the wrong way, USA Today wrote at the time. The trio timelines can be jarring as you figure out how they all fit. The fact that there are only a couple of women and no lead actors of color may rub some the wrong way. Still, Nolan's feat is undeniable. He's made an immersive, there's that key word, immersive, what most people want when they see their flicks. He made an immersive war movie that celebrates the good of mankind while also making it clear that no victory is without sacrifice. If Saving Private Ryan was made today, there'd probably be some arguing that they need more women or transgender soldiers in the opening wave on Omaha Beach. Now, I don't know about transgender characters, but I do think we should have had probably like some more gay people on Omaha Beach. They shouldn't have been the first wave. No. Gay people, they're often very, very frilly, very girly, which there's nothing wrong with that. But what they would work great with is coming up and cleaning up the mess after the battle had been fought. The only thing was, you're probably gonna have that one sassy character that's like, we're gonna have to clean up all of this? Movies should be realistic and shouldn't feel like characters are forced into plot lines to fill diversity quotas. That's what makes Taylor Sheridan's writing so elite. There are so many different groups covered and everyone feels absolutely necessary to the story. Props to Mads Mikkelsen and Nicolas Arcel for not even engaging with this nonsense. That's exactly how a situation like this should be handled. And yeah, the article is entirely correct. This is exactly how a situation like this should be handled, with professionalism and straightforward answers, because that's all you have to do. These people come out, they ask a stupid question, and you give them a straight-faced, intelligent answer. This is how history works. Move on, little doggy. It really isn't that hard, and maybe, just maybe, we're starting to see the tides turn. I mean, One Piece came out, and it was the furthest thing from woke. However, some anti-wokers on YouTube still, and of course Twitter, or X, because everything always comes back to X, throwing a fit about how even One Piece is woke. You know what? That's a pretty good segue. Check out my next video at 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time when we talk about the anti-woke side of things, throwing a fit that One Piece, the show that has nothing to do with politics and left all the societal and social crap out of it. Of course, they're still trying to find some wokeness in it, but that'll be coming at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so stay tuned until then. But until then, those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on X, where you can find me at Bolt the Word. And please do subscribe. I am a nerdy news channel. I do nerdy news videos every day. Be sure to catch me on Saturday Night Hypnosis tonight with the usual gang. It is the best live stream you could possibly spend your Saturday night watching, where we are unfiltered and absolutely hilarious because free speech trumps all. And once again, consider becoming a member. I'm really trying to grow this, and I think it will be incredibly awesome. Obviously, if you can't, I would not ask you to financially support me in any way that you don't feel comfortable doing. If you're just here, then by all means, just watch the video, like the video, share, all the really simple and free things to do, because that's all I ask, because you guys get your eyeballs on this, that you appreciate the content, and if you disagree, again, let me know in the comments. But until then, it's all here in the Nerdosphere, and this has been Words of Paradise.